Welcome back, all you wonderful listeners, because a new episode of Walford Weekly is out right now, and you're listening to it right now. We are
now?
Yes, live in your mind. We are obviously discussing a week of EastEnders. The episodes aired between the 21st and the 25th of September. I'm getting through this quick. I'm Ben, the host, and I'm joined once again by
Me. I'm Alex.
Alex.
Also a host, but of a side way.
We're both hosts, I think. I don't. What's the difference between host and co-host? Don't know.
Well, I support you.
Mentally.
Yeah. You keep the show alive, but I'm helping. I'm the
So
cogs.
I'm the Kate Oates and you're the John Sen.
Yeah, I guess. You're the organ grinder and I'm the monkey.
Yes. Anyway, before we even start talking about this week's episodes, I want to know just a quick summary from you, your general thoughts of this week compared to the other few weeks. How are your thoughts?
Talking to me or the listeners?
You.
Me?
No,
Wow.
I talk to the listeners.
I thought we were live. Got excited then. General thoughts this week was that it's gone back to standard, but not quite as bad as... That's awful, actually. I shouldn't say as
Roller
bad.
coaster. It's a bit up and down, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a good week. I've enjoyed the week.
Beginning and end were good.
Yeah.
The middle was a bit of a slump.
Yeah, but Fridays, we say this all the time, Fridays was just brilliant. Friday was a great episode. Again, I don't care what anyone says. I thought the ending was fantastic. It had
Denise.
It had the right mix of characters. Also, Friday didn't have a lot of a certain duo in the story, although the eggy baldy one was still in the story because he decided to be a grass, even though he went the whole week going on about not being a grass.
Yes, there's a lot of grass this week.
But more on that later. But yeah, no, I mean, it was normal standard fare for EastEnders, heightened by the return of an iconic, and I don't use that word lightly, an iconic character with her new iconic daughter. Although we will always remember Box. Lily.
Although the EastEnders classic of no aftermath is shining its head again, I feel.
But not the worst it's ever been.
But not the best.
Certainly. But
Not
the
even
best,
the middle ground.
The best was a long, long time ago. But for recent history EastEnders, it's at least it was mentioned, which is always a good sign.
That's true. But let's all just take a moment to appreciate Denise. She had a duff, and she has a storyline.
Finally.
It's been a few years
storylines
since we've been here.
2 storylines, if you think about it. One just little storyline went for 3 days, and then one big smack in the face with a wet fish of a storyline on a Friday.
So all the Denise fans been waiting patiently for this. So we're here, collectively, cheering her on.
We've been building up to it, haven't we? We've been saying how Denise kind of goes around the square, dishes out advice to anyone who'd listen. She has her own bench now. She has her own table at the cafe.
Now she has her own storyline.
Yeah, and now, by progression, she now has her own storyline. And the writers trust her.
Yes, we're all good. And what a great actress. So...
Diane Parrish is a fantastic actress, and it's been a long time coming that she deserved a storyline worthy of her.
Yeah. So this episode's dedicated to her, I feel.
Well,
to Denise's duff.
If the title is her name, then yes, it will be.
Now we just have to wait for Natalie Cassidy.
Nat Cass.
She's the only cast member not to appear yet since lockdown.
Well, the only cast member not to appear on TV. However, on social media, she's quite proficient.
Yeah, but that's not Sonia, is it?
Oh, she's doing impressions of Sonia now. she's doing more Garner impressions of herself. It's almost meta. It's frightening.
Yeah, so we're waiting for Terry Kant, but we'll get there eventually. But the first storyline we're talking about is the...
Not Robbie Jackson?
No.
I thought we might come back for Terry's storyline.
Carol can, Robbie can't.
I'd love Carol to come back.
Yeah, just for a month. Bring her in.
For a long time.
Yeah, a month to begin with to soften her up, Lindsay up, and then...
Carol Jackson of 1995. I've actually got goosebumps. I'm shivering. I'm got chills sitting here thinking about. There's so many scenes I can say that I just every time I'm just aghast at the end of her scene.
Now that's Aftermath, 1995. That's why we've been spoilt, you see, because we've had such good aftermath of Sharon Gate and the reveal of Bianca's true dad, and it's just amazing. And then we have like the Chantel stuff.
It's funny because if you look at the old episodes of EastEnders series, like if you look at 1985 to kind of 1992, I feel like it was good. And it's obviously going to be seen as classic now. But
you can see the boom mic.
Yeah, they were still trying to find their feet. This was a new venture for the BBC. And now we're into in the middle, say 93, 94, 95. They've just found their stride. I truly believe this is the best EastEnders.
It is. Icons everywhere. Every scene.
Yeah.
every corner, every market still. Anyway, we're not talking about icons, we're talking about Grey.
Who could be an icon?
Could.
Doubt it.
Time will tell. But yes, we had Grey. I mean, we'll just get this over with to begin with as well, shall we? Because it's been mentioned already. The first opening scene on Monday was awful.
Why was it awful then?
Well, I feel upset by the fact that we went to like the next morning. I would have preferred to see the police arrive, to speak to Grey, to see how it was all handled. The fact that Karen and Mitch and none of the kids had been told that Chantal was dead, and they just arrived in the taxi and got out and was like, oh. And Billy Mitchell just went up to Mitch and goes, Chantal's dead. and you don't get to see Mitch's reaction because it's blurred in the background, which I thought was insulting.
Well, so considering that they've focused so hard this week on Mitch's thoughts on Grey and how he's kind of putting puzzle pieces together, the fact you didn't see his initial reaction to find out that his daughter had died,
and the delivery of Chantal's dead
by Billy, kind of ruined any kind of a cause and effect that was going to happen in the future.
And what else did I hated the incidental music, obviously. It didn't even go with what was happening on screen.
Well, I got in trouble for this because I said it sounded like the free music you get with YouTube when you add to YouTube. Yeah, well, it's an actual professional band. It was the XX.
I don't care. It doesn't. It just looks awful. If you compare it, because I saw someone compared it to when Lucy Bill's body was found, dead silence, and you saw all the reactions from everyone while they were there and the body and everything. It was amazing. And then the Chantal one, it was just like an episode of CSI from 99 or something. So that was just silly,
right?
And I just feel like Chantal hasn't died. She's just popped off for like 2-week holiday, and no one seems to really care that much apart from Kheerat. Kheerat is the only one, and may I add, his performance very good this week.
More than his performance.
His reaction was really good, but I wanted that reaction from everyone. Bernie didn't even get a line.
But no one seemed to care.
She hugged the teddy bear and that was it.
Yeah, Bernie. No one seemed to care what Bernie thought. Didn't
Keegan talked about himself, saying it upset him.
Yeah.
And like no mention of her contacting Keanu, like nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's all very
I do. The only
silly.
I want to be the yin to your yang on this. Okay, I want to be the devil with the advocate.
You can try.
Style. Do you not think that the whole point of Chantal's story has been that the unravelling of her and Grey has been done very quietly, very secretly? No one on the square knew it was happening. Whitney was friends with Chantal, but she didn't know. Jean kind of spotted there was a problem, but didn't know. Not even Karen, her own mother, or Mitch.
Denise
kind of picked up on it. The only person who was let in was Kheerat. So do you not think that perhaps, although it was shocking for something to happen on the square, a death to happen on the square, yes, there should have been some kind of interaction from other characters.
Maybe the residents have just gotten used to it now.
Yeah, that's true. It's quite a high death scaled area. But do you not think that kind of strengthens that the reason is the story was always done quietly out of the picture, and so the death is also going to be quietly forgotten, and so Chantal's death was almost in vain because Albert Square haven't realised just yet, and so that Grey, when it is found out that Grey was the one who did it and it was because of domestic violence, that then the fallout will begin. Then it will be a big fallout.
Yeah, but will it though? Because the trouble is, you say that, and if that was a one-off case, and I say, yeah, that was probably a clever way that they did it, a behind closed doors thing.
You're never going to forgive them for Dennis's funeral, are you?
But the fact is, the past 4 deaths. Let's go back 4 deaths, 5 deaths.
No.
Daniels,
right?
Didn't really have an aftermath, really.
Well, they did with Jean, but then they forgot that Jean had forgotten to take her meds.
Denny, Mel, Hunter, Leo.
Yeah, they were disappointing.
So the track record of recent history isn't great. So I don't buy into this fact that this was purposely low aftermath.
Also,
and we could have just had so much more from the Taylors, but instead we had Stacey and Ruby and Ben and Callum, and it's like, just give it a break.
Again, it felt like that Stacey's reintroduction was a week too soon. I think that they should have done that next week. I know that they're trying to come back with a bang, and we've said this already because obviously the 2 weeks, having not filmed for a while, have been a tremendous 2 weeks. But going back, so something you've just mentioned there, you've just said 5 deaths that have happened in a year?
About 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
Now, we're getting into Hollyoaks territory now.
Maybe even more than Hollyoaks.
Yeah. Deaths should be the end of either a huge storyline or should be something that's so poignant that it doesn't happen regularly. It should be a shock. Death in a storyline for a soap should be shocking. And the fact that
and mean something.
And the fact that they're using so many just to end storylines
It's really lazy as well.
It's getting disappointing.
It's like the last death which had like real ramifications is, I would say, Lucy Beale, because like we still have storylines now with Max and Ian kind of about Lucy Beale still, and Bobby and stuff like that. Like that is good. That's like 5 years worth of material. And then you have people like Abby or Stephen or Denny or Mel or Hunter.
I would argue that Abby's story death still has some ramifications.
Or Baby Abby.
Not just that, Max still mentions her, and he mentioned her this week and said like, "Oh, I wish I could see Lauren with Abby, but I'll take Baby Abby." You know,
I think he meant Baby Abby, didn't he? As in, he's going to take Baby Abby to see Lauren.
No, I think he said, "I wish Abby was around so they could still go." But honestly, you know, Ben, I'm completely on board with you. They should never have killed Abby, but I do think there is still some repercussions there. But let's take, for instance, Shaquille's death. For argument's sake, there was a huge fallout of that. To be fair, it was big stories. It was a knife crime, and they really did it very responsibly. I don't know. I suppose there's not really characters now that could really kind of reflect on it anymore.
Kush mentions it once a year. Kush mentions it now and
then, but also Bex is gone now, and Louise has gone now. Carmel is gone. So I suppose there's no real ramifications for that either. I just like I say, my point, I hate when death should be used as the final point for a storyline and not just used as a kind of like a flyaway.
That's the end.
Yeah, that's it. Kind of like a flyaway reason just to end a storyline, or just to wrap something up just because you can't think of a more complicated or interesting way of doing it. It's just a little bit
It feels like last Friday's episode was just made for like the soap awards, like in a certain category at a certain time.
That's
like, do you know what I mean?
Because I think that with their association with the charities, I think that they've done a tremendous job. But
but keep that quality going the next episode, not just one episode.
Yes, which is why I think that this week there should have been a much bigger aftermath than there was. Because let's go into the story. The only aftermath there really was Kheerat spoke to Mitch and said that he suspects Gray of having a hand at Chantel's death. But when Mitch confronts Karen about it, Karen instantly takes the side of Gray, because Karen has never seen the other side of Gray, but Mitch has. So Mitch is a bit torn and can't make his mind up. Maybe Kheerat is a bit bitter because Gray keeps planting the seed in Mitch's head that the reason why Kheerat is saying this is because he fell in love with Chantel, but Chantel rejected him.
With that voicemail that he keeps listening to, where Gray made her do it, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's a shame that Kheerat didn't just show Mitch all the text messages. He was like, we've been talking over lockdown. We were planning to run away together. You think he'd be like, well, here's the messages? Also,
I was surprised he didn't play the voice message, because for me, you can tell. You could tell that she was distressed when she made that voicemail. And why hasn't Kheerat gone to the police himself? Why is he trying to kind of get someone else to do it on his behalf?
Is that because Suki warned him not to? Was it like he doesn't dare go against his mum, maybe? I mean, some of the things which is a kind of another issue of modern EastEnders, is characters act a bit dumb just to facilitate the storyline that they want to tell.
Right.
Like when Gray went into the Vic on the night when Chantel was dying, and if that was real life, I think people could tell that Gray looked a bit disheveled and sweaty, and
he was white in the sheets. Yeah, he was panicked.
And like Kat and Jean and Stacey were just laughing around him, talking about how hot he was. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it makes characters act dumb to facilitate this Chantel death thing probably being dragged out till Christmas, I'm imagining. Do you think that's where they're going?
Yes, of course, because it started in September.
Anything
that starts in September gets dragged to Christmas.
Does that then lose the point of that she's a domestic abuse victim? Like, do you know what I mean? Like dragging it till Christmas and having a big reveal around the Taylor Christmas table. Does it kind of take away from the point? I don't know.
I just wish that perhaps they could have maybe played the story a little bit differently, where obviously there is a record that Chantel had called a women's refuge,
and her divorce lawyer that she got,
and the divorce lawyer as well. I would like, I know it's moving a little bit into Eddie Royal territory here, but I would have liked there to kind of been a story where you kind of followed what the police were doing to investigate, rather than just having this one scene when the police came in and said, "Oh, we had a phone call today."
Yeah, and that was silly as well. The police wouldn't say to Gray it was Kheerat, it was the subject.
I thought that too. They would just question him about Kheerat.
Yeah,
and yeah, I don't know. It's very, 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 very strange. But I feel like the handling of it was fine. I mean, you don't want to make it an exaggerated piece of melodrama.
No,
you want to do it considerably, but
it felt like last on the list of storylines this week
when
it shouldn't have been. It should have been top of the list, and we should have been in that Taylor flat, and we should have seen Bernie and Keegan talking, or Karen speaking to Keanu. We should have seen more of how it's actually affected them, whereas at the moment it doesn't really Like, even Mitch, I guess he's a bit numb, but he doesn't really feel that. He's more determined to find the killer than actually grieving
over his own daughter. But then that's why maybe that's
she's actually dead. Do you know what I mean? It's I don't know.
But maybe that's how he's grieving for his daughter, because he wants justice. I think Mitch knows that there's more foul play than is being meets the eye by the police. But at the same time, he doesn't know who to point the finger of blame to. He's being told one thing by Kheerat. He's being told another thing by Gray. He's being then pulled another direction by Karen. So dare I say, I'm very much enjoying the struggle that Mitch is encountering, and he's really the only real aftermath I feel we're getting from this Chantal story at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's obviously more to come. There's a funeral in a few weeks and stuff like that. But
we are getting a funeral.
Well, I don't know if it's on screen. I think it's just around the square.
It'd be interesting to see. Well, you in the old days we could say, oh well, that's just stupid. But actually, now the COVID-19.
That's true.
It would make better sense that there would be a very small, isolated funeral.
Are they going to plant something in the square for Chantal? Something else in there? There's quite a few things in that square garden now for characters.
Like a tree that looks like her hair.
Oh yeah, because they keep talking about curly princess and curly haired stuff. Maybe another bench.
God, if they had a bench for every single person who died in EastEnders, there would be no room for their park.
No, has to be something else. I don't know.
Wasn't the mural that they painted during lockdown? Wasn't that kind of just or was that just for Black Lives Matter?
No, that was to because those murals by that artist had been popping up around London, so that's why they did it on that. But maybe there'll be something in the square gardens for her. Who knows? Who knows? We've got to move on anyway because we're overrunning already. Hello. Right, so next up we've Stacey.
Done more aftermath than
we EastEnders. Have. This is the trouble, see, you overrun if you do it too well. Stacey returns. Obviously, Lacey Turner's back for a short period, unfortunately.
Yes, because she's pregnant again.
She is. How selfish.
I know. What's she been up to during lockdown?
Yes, well, Stacey's return. The obvious was obvious. She was spending Ruby's money. Obviously. Because we saw her in, like, the jewellery shop.
Yeah. A great line, though, when she said rubies are a bit cheap.
Yeah, but then handed her card, which said her name was Ruby, to the woman at the store. And the woman was probably thinking,
But I don't really know how she got Ruby's card, because she's been away from the square. She came back.
She's got a new card, I guess, did she?
Well, so she applied under Ruby's name.
Because Ruby said the person who got it knew all her birthdays and her maiden name and stuff like that or something, wasn't it?
I mean,
I'm wondering if Kat took a few things from the club when she was cleaning and just texted them over, maybe.
Yeah, but then that makes Kat an accomplice, so that makes her no better than Stacey.
If she wasn't spending it. But it did make me laugh that Ruby, the multi-millionaire, they said that Stacey spent, 40,000, I think, on stuff, I'm not sure what, an ombre hair and a new red jacket and some earrings,
boots
and some teddy bears. You know, she's like got 1.7 million when Jay looked at her account last year. Is 60,000 really going to make a dent in Ruby's?
Drop in the ocean.
Yeah, she's like suddenly bankrupt unless she spent loads on lockdown with her and Martin.
I mean, we've all spent a lot more money on online purchases, I feel. Maybe Ruby did the same. Maybe that's why the bank didn't believe her when she said that she had her card stolen. I mean, that bank, I know. To drill a point.
They were like having a go at Ruby.
I know. It's like, would you stop telling this person to stop spending money? Well, I can't. Yeah, it's really, really dumb. You would just lock the account immediately.
You'd think, but Stacey got away. She didn't care, did she? Because she got my man. And then Ruby walked up to her and says, "You're tart of a cousin or slag of a cousin or something." And then she appeared with her sunglasses, and then Lily appeared with her sunglasses.
New Lily, little Stacey, little Stace. I miss Claudia Winkleman Lily.
The new Lily was all right though. I didn't.
Yeah, she was really brash.
She was quite funny, wasn't she?
Brash, sorry. And do you know how Ruby found out? A grass told Ruby. Little Arthur.
Oh yeah, he had a haircut. He looks sweet, doesn't he? Yeah, because Kush and Kat were talking about it and Arthur overheard and then told Martin. Yeah. So, you know, Arthur doesn't stand Stacey, apparently.
Don't blame. Well, she's hardly seen her. It's been a year.
That's true.
She just left and then, yeah.
I mean, the maternity leave storyline was extremely messy. And even trying to work out what has happened, no one can remember. Like the Dark Martin, the Phil Mitchell hit over the head, the Ben telling Kat to forget about it and then covering it up and all this stuff. It kind of got resolved slightly later in the week.
Well, I completely forgot also that Martin had lied to Stacey to keep her away for longer.
Yeah, because Ben threatened the kids.
That's when Dark Martin kicked off. And so Martin told Stacey that he'd slept with Sonia. But
he hadn't. And then the next week dumped Sonia because he was kind of playing with her, wasn't he? But not really.
And then Sonia was in on it, wasn't she?
No, Sonia didn't know. She was planning a honeymoon and all sorts, wasn't she?
Right.
And then he just went and left her on her own.
Again, poor Sonia. She's like the waste of this whole kind of horrible story between this relationship, toxic relationship between Martin and Stacey, because she paid someone to stop getting Martin in trouble with the police when it's hit and run.
I forgot about him.
And she was seen as like the cheap tart on the side who slept with Stacey, and Sonia just went along with it. Sonia, I tell you what,
do anything for her, Martin.
She will. She's one of the kindest people. Give Sonia a lovely storyline, please.
Yeah,
she deserves it. She's treated like dirt, and we're meant to actually feel angry with Sonia because she stole a few pennies here and there from Dot, but Dot's a multi-millionaire as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Ruby gets money stolen. The bank don't care. Dot gets money stolen. Straight away, the bank's like, right, we're going to close your account. Like, just because she's an elderly little woman who lives in Ireland.
That's continuity for you.
Well, I asked.
And also because they had a little chat in the Clunkies because Ruby was going to go to the police and like dob grass on Stacey.
Yeah, grass is the word of the week.
But then Martin was like, no, you can't because I've not seen my kids in a year, and if you grass on Stacey, she'll run away again. And it made me laugh how he said he hasn't seen his kids for a year, but I'm sure he said he'd visited them like every other weekend before, didn't he?
No, he couldn't have,
because he met like Jermaine or whatever.
No, Jermaine came to the square to pick up some of Stacey's stuff, and
then it's still very messy because even because I'm sure Jean used to say she used to visit Stacey or text her, but now
they used to phone, didn't she? She used to speak to Stacey.
But now Jean's acting like she hasn't talked to her in months. Yeah, so it's all over the place.
Well, no, didn't they when Jean was having her moment off the meds? sounds like a daytime TV show.
When she chucked all the kids out.
Off the meds. Yeah, and but when that all happened, that's when they got in touch with Stacey to try to then talk to Jean. But Jean refused to take the phone calls. So I think Stacey has been AWOL the whole time. I don't think she's had any contact with anyone other than Kat.
Because she appeared for a little voice phone call message. Yeah, but that was Martin.
That was for. Oh no! Yeah. Oh gosh. The voice.
Should this storyline be this complicated?
No. The voice phone call was around Christmas, wasn't it? And that's when Dark Martin was happening.
Possibly. But why is it so this convoluted? I hope that Stacey's next maternity leave in like 4 months is just a simple. She's in prison or something, or like just anything. Just simple. Keep it simple.
Well, no, I don't want her to commit a crime for the reason why she's leaving, but could she not just kind of visit Cherry and
Lynn?
Or Lynn
Hobbs.
Yeah, just visiting a family member.
Because it's very confusing.
Because if you do that, then you could, by extension, then bring in more Slaters. And there's always room for another Slater.
Yeah.
Why not?
Little Mo.
There's enough room in that house, the clown house.
But after Martin said to Ruby, like, oh, I've not seen my kids in a year, then at the end of the week, he then said to her, let's go on holiday, just us.
Yes.
Which again, it's like, Martin, what's happening here? Is it just like lots of writers writing different things at the moment and no one's talking to each other?
I think Martin came to the realisation that Stacey is a bit not good for him. And that
he was very arrogant, wasn't he? Because he said, like, I've already found someone better than you.
Which, to be fair to Martin, I am a little bit waving Martin's flag on this one. Stacey,
blowing his trumpet.
I am blowing his trumpet. He went in to kind of like have a kind of peace talks with Stacey while she was having the Stacey special, which is like a triple burger, large fries and a chocolate milkshake.
And mayo
all over her face. Dirty scoundrel. And she kind of, in the normal Stacey way, just said, well, I don't care that you're with Ruby, I can get better anyway. And so Martin retaliated and said, well, I've already got better. So I don't blame him for that, to be honest with you, because Stacey's instant defense mechanism is try to show that you don't care. And she knows it doesn't work out that way. But for me, I just kind of can see the path already being laid ahead, and that is Max Branning is on the path. And
yeah. Well, he's sniffing around Linda a lot, though, isn't he? So
they're BFFs now at the moment, aren't
they? Quickly as well in this storyline, we had a new feud developing between Sookie and Stacey. Because Sookie held her ground. It was quite good.
When Stacey was about to throw the drink on her, and then Jean said, "Stop! This has ended. There's no need to carry it on.
You're too late for this battle."
Yeah, which is when we saw, by extension, that Jean feels like Stacey had missed a lot of things. So many that there's no reason for Stacey to be there anymore. That she doesn't need that.
She might as well just go in a few months, really.
Yeah, have some kind of maternity leave. So the Stacey and Sookie. I mean, I love Sookie being involved.
She didn't flinch at that glass, did she? That drink.
Sookie is just hardcore. She does not take any crap from anyone.
Nor does Stacey. And not everyone can match up to Lacey Turner, but when you know that Sookie did, you know that she's there to stay. So it's always a good test, the scene with Lacey Turner.
Would you like? I know for a long time we were talking about the Panasars, and we said like, oh, we don't really want them taking over the square. Oh God, imagine if they took over the Vic. Now, knowing what we know about Sookie and how wonderful she is, and that she has her own businesses, and like, and she's rehired Honey. Honey's back.
Yeah, she was back for 2 scenes
in the mini mart. In the Sookie mart. Do you think that actually the Queen Sookie could be the new Vic? Because I just think that her behind the bar would be perfect.
Yeah, she would look good behind the bar, but I don't want the Panasars to own the Vic.
But don't you think that Sookie would be
perfect? What about
perfect?
Sharon?
Sharon's fine. I love Sharon. And
she's got a new blouse.
I know, a nice cream blouse. She's got a completely different colour. She's inverted herself. But don't you think Sookie... We always say how they're always the centre of all the stories. And most of the main stories always happen in the Vic. We know that Sookie is just... They're just priming her. They're just poking her, just waiting for her to be done, ready for a main big storyline to involve Sookie in some way. And Kheerat, I think, by association. Don't you think the Vic is the right place for them to be?
Don't know.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's Sookie. I'm not saying Jags should be in the Vic. If Jags was in the Vic, Jags can be the guy who's in the toilet door who sprays
you
with...
by the crisp boxes in the back all the time. It'd be stupid comedy
eating
stuff.
Them. No, he can be the one handing out the Imperial mints after you've done a whiz.
Don't do it anymore. COVID.
Yeah, but
Imperial
in the
mints
future.
don't exist.
No.
Mixed nuts and
if
no
you're
longer.
handing them by a tong, then they're not being contaminated by other people's hands.
I won't take nothing from Jags.
Wow.
So there. Right. Next up on our... talking about convoluted storylines. We've got Ben and Callum, the police and the Mitchells. Now, I found this very hard.
But what about the story?
Because Callum was on screen so much. No, I found this very difficult to watch because police storylines disinterest me. It gave me Eddie Royal in 1990. Remember that week when he was doing those police things around swimming pools and stuff?
I just said that. I would like to have seen that with the Chantel story.
Yeah, but remember when he was going to like that swimming pool and that party, and he was
teenage pool party.
Yeah, and he was like investigating people and talking to policemen in like cafes and near rivers.
It was like an episode of The Bill.
Yeah, and this is what this is reminding me of. So I instantly hate it and just don't listen. Plus the fact that they've got this awful policeman, the Robbie Jackson
D.I. Gaffney.
Robbie's dad, possibly. I just find it very difficult to listen to any of this rubbish. And it's so stupid, like all this, you're a grass, you don't grass, you catch bigger fish, go after him, lie to him. And it's just like, oh, just shut up. I'm so trying so hard because of lovely little Callum. We all have a little place in our heart for him. And this storyline is just like, ugh.
It's just going round and round and round in circles. And I know...
And it's just stupid. It's just stupid as well.
It's just, yeah. I mean, as you say, Callum...
There's nothing to say.
Callum is the shining moment in this whole story because he is the moral of it all.
Or is he?
Well, he is, because he's basically caught between two very strong pulls, which is the police force, which he's apparently always wanted to be in. He's progressed very quickly in a very short time. He's also now been given
a promotion.
I was about to say, he's now been given an opportunity to be promoted even higher still.
Higher than Jack Brannan.
In less than a year. So he's tempted by it. He's salivating at the idea of becoming becoming the new detective sergeant, CID, being the new, police crimes unit. Because that's where he's going to end up being. He's going to be on In the Line of Duty, the TV series. That's where the actor's heading. That's his aim. On the other side is Phil and the Mitchells, and he's saying, once you're a Mitchell, you're part of the family, you can get involved with with all the going-ons, the ups, the downs.
You keep an eye on in the police side and cover our tracks and all sorts of rubbish.
And both are basically to benefit, or he's being told to benefit, his lover Ben Mitchell. So basically, Ben Mitchell is being mollycoddled and nursed by Callum,
both ways,
with association from the being protected by the police force and being protected by the Mitchells or his dad. And so Callum is quite rightly a bit torn by what is the right choice to make. Does he take police force and get Ben's... Because Ben's dad, let's be honest, Ben's dad... Why don't I keep saying Ben's dad? Phil. That character, Phil Mitchell, he is poison to Ben. I'm sorry, but he is. Yeah. Ben's always trying to get his acceptance. Phil knows this, but then once Ben's done a big boo-boo and they sit down and have a little bit of a cry around the table, Phil always says, oh, don't worry about it. I'll never let you feel that way again. Next week, he's then getting him involved in a heist. And where's Kathy in all this as well? Why is Kathy not giving Callum any advice as well? Because
she's not even mentioned, but like Ben was arrested. She was just there collecting glasses around the thing. And I think it's because the actors are in groups.
Bubbles.
And they can't interact with other actors or something like that. Mm-hmm. But still, it's really like...
But I'm sorry, but we have... There's crazy things of communication they call telephones nowadays. I'm happy to see a telephone call between Ben and Kathy. Or a Skype call.
Or just mention it to Sharon when she's collecting glasses or something.
Well, why doesn't Kathy talk about it with another character and say, oh, I'm really worried about Ben. Have you spoken to him? Yeah, it's a simple association. So I hate that it's being kept inside this Mitchell family.
And they keep saying, like, so Callum's like ultimatum from that policeman was like, if you don't get Danny, let's get the big fish, Phil Mitchell. And it's like the Mitchells are literally Ben and Phil. That's it.
Yeah, which is another thing that confuses me. They keep saying, we trade on our name, the Mitchell name.
This big family. It's like there's two of you, and you're both awful at what you do.
I was about to say. And last week we listed all the things that they've botched in like the whole time the Mitchells have existed. Like they're not exactly... I mean, apart from Phil's aggressive behaviour and the way he addresses people, he's not particularly I wouldn't have much confidence in saying, oh, you know what, Phil Mitchell. If I was working in an office and they said, oh, who's doing the Bobby account? I'd say, oh, Phil Mitchell's doing it. I'd be like, oh, God, you got Phil doing it. He's the worst office monkey we have. Let's get someone else on the thing.
And it's quite annoying as well how they're acting like Phil's full-time career has been a criminal when it hasn't. Really, he used to like own business. He used to do like a dodgy MOT or something for a bit of extra cash. That's like the extent they used to go to, but
he was never at the top of the pyramid.
No, and now they're acting like he's this gang lord and all his money and investments have all ever come from crime. It's like, what? He used to have a 10% stake in the cafe. Like, come on, let's level this out a bit. So it's all a bit silly. And
I don't like gangster stories anyway.
No, gangster and police is just awful, and now they've mixed them both into one. Yeah, it's just like,
and using it as the main source for people to come into the show. I mean, I love the Ballum story, but we always say, please make it about the relationship, not about what's happening around them. Make it about how Ben and Callum are, which is kind of what they're doing with Callum, because he's obviously showing that
he's standing up to Phil, which I enjoy.
And he's desperately trying to protect Ben, while still making Ben think that Ben's the one in control of both their relationship. I don't want to coin a term which is very offensive to the LGBT community, but he's the man of the relationship. Ben likes to think that he is the man of the relationship, and so Callum's kind of allowing him to think that, while really the one pulling the strings is Callum. But it's
like this whole Danny stuff should have been forgotten, and Ben's hearing and coping with it and relationship should have been carried on, where the other thing has happened. They've just got rid of this hearing thing and now he can hear. Like, there's no signs of him struggling to hear people or lip read. Like, people turning away from him and talking to him, and he's still answering.
Well, he even said on Thursday's episode, Lexi and I have just chosen a film and we're not putting subtitles on. It's like, that's a miracle cure then.
I know, it's so stupid. And the fact that they've given Callum, we know that they've fast forwarded his storyline and he's a policeman now, but they could have at least waited a few months, like wait till the new year and then bring in him being like a crooked cop. Like, just let him be in the police, maybe explore them finding out he's gay, like the fatality crash that we had. There's loads of things that they could have done which are much more believable.
I was quite upset actually, because I thought that the crash that Callum had to go and deal with, I think, which would have been a much bigger blow, in my opinion, for Denise to hear it, if it hadn't been done in passing in a conversation in the minute mark, but also because we know what we know about Callum at the moment, and it just feels like it felt like it lost any kind of weight behind it.
It was just all plot again, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the story afterwards, which we'll talk about, Denise's story, was brilliant, but it just... I don't know. It
just felt empty.
It felt like it was rushed in. It's like Denise heard it and then quickly went to look in her box of memories.
Yeah, and apparently the dad, we'll talk about that later, but apparently the dad had messaged her saying, I'm going on holiday, this is my name. Like, when did this happen?
Yeah, but my point is that I felt like it lost any true relevance because of the fact that in the background I was always thinking, Callum's this cop who basically got promoted in less than a day and is now on the road of becoming a higher inspector than Jack Browning because he's investigating a crime against the Mitchells.
Like when it came through on the radio, video, the first thing the cop was like, if you do what I say, you won't have to deal with that much longer. Like, this fatal crash was just like nothing. Like,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And I mean, that's also really offensive because, like, you know, if someone in your family or you knew a friend who had died fatally in a car crash, it's not nothing. It's not something you think that the people investigating in the police force are just thinking to themselves, oh, well, this is just the pencil pushing that I have to do to make my way up to doing more exciting crimes that they show on TV. It's like, no, that's disgusting.
I mean, are they trying to make us not... Obviously, no one likes this policeman anyway because he's awful. Well, but is that like we're meant to be on Mitch Phil's side? I guess because that's what normally happens.
I think.
So are they just trying to make him just? Is that how it's going to end? Like Callum's going to get this crooked cop taken down and save the Mitchells or something stupid.
And what his line to him is going to be, "Do you know what they do to cops in prison?" And grasses, and then just see him getting taken away in handcuffs.
It's all. I don't know where this story is going because I just have zero interest in it, so I'm not even predicting anything.
Oh, I see where it's going. It's just another copy and paste Mitchell bodge up, isn't it?
Do you think that Callum ends up killing Danny by accident in the line of duty or something? Is that where it's going? So in a way, Callum saves the Mitchells by getting rid of Danny,
but because it's in the live and duty,
at the same time he's a good cop, sort of thing.
Yeah,
maybe that would be what it is.
I mean, Callum has shot a gun once at a person, so that's not to say he won't do it again.
Didn't cover that in his police interview, did they? Right, next up, quick, because...
Can you imagine if Mick gave him a reference, by the way, as for the police force? They said, how do you know Callum? Oh, he shot me.
Oh, he stole some jewellery off another gangster, which isn't as bad as Danny, or the Mitchells, but
it's okay, because it meant that we could buy the Vic, so he's great.
Right, so next up, we've got Ian and Sharon, because Sharon was calling Ian's bluff, because he's just doing the same thing as the past 2 weeks, basically, being horrible to Sharon and making her do too much work and too many things. He's being really horrible to her, so she obviously confided in her mate Linda, which they talked in the laundrette, which was a nice little classic moment, wasn't it?
I love seeing the laundrette.
Talking in the laundrette. It looks a bit too clean.
It's far too clean, and it's not.
But that's Linda, I guess.
There's not enough noise or background noise. Again, this is just because
it's very shiny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just because we're basically we've ruined EastEnders because we watched the new episodes, the old episodes now on Classic. But I mean, I love the hustle, the bustle, the graffiti. Like sometimes we spot a new little bit of graffiti on the wall, and we like looking at it, and we read out loud. And now it's just it's just clean, and it's very.
It looks like a set.
It does look a bit like a set, and also it ruined for me that they showed you how they turn the washing machines, and I know for a fact that in the old days they used real washing machines in the laundrette set.
Once upon a time,
and now they just have people in the background. Perhaps Shrimpy does it. We don't
Tracy
know. And Tracy just to get a little bit more extra pocket money, but they just crank it with a.
And I'd like to know when the job availability comes up. Actually, I'd like to apply.
I'd love to be a cranker of the laundrette.
Sit there and listen to the little stuff. I enjoy that. But she told Linda, and Linda found out because now she's friends with Max. Because they did Zoom quizzes or something.
Which you would have never have known if you hadn't seen the synopsises on Instagram.
Or Children Need, when they did that weird group quiz, didn't they? As their characters, but kind of
I forgot
not.
about that. That was when Ian was setting up the quiz.
So I think that was what that was referencing, maybe. So she found out that Ian has stolen Max's money. I noted as well, it was said 3 times that Max will kill Ian. Oh. 3 times. Foreshadowing. Their foreshadowing is really getting really unsubtle, isn't it? From the dishwasher in January with the knife thing to now just saying it 3 times in one episode.
The Peter Pan with Stuart.
Yeah.
That was the best one in my opinion.
That was good. And when she said on Denny's life, like 6 months before.
Very long time ago.
And then there's this, and it's like,
yeah, I'm gonna kill Ian. But then Max has never been one for subtleties.
No, it's true. So she sort of said to Sharon, "Oh, just call his bluff and just say you'll leave. Then he'll come running to you." And lovely old Sharon thought, "Yeah, I have the power."
She does have the power.
She lightly curled her hair, put a new blouse on,
lifted her skirt up to a couple of inches,
yeah,
like schoolgirls.
Couple of foot,
yeah.
Because they're so long, her legs. And no, Ian was like, "Yeah, go then, bye."
I know, he kind of...
She was just like, "What?" Clutched her pearls.
She was shocked by it. She was like, "Ew, hang on.
Have I lost my prowess?"
Well, she hadn't with the guy last week when she was like giggling and flirting with the man.
Yeah, counsellor.
And Ian this week said, "I'm desperately trying to get contracts with council and private businesses for food buffets and so on and so forth." And so surely he should utilise the Sharon giggle and lift,
the smoky laugh,
and the smoky laugh, for his own benefit. Last week he was moaning at her for using it. surely that's a benefit. It's a plus.
But he's just in weasel mode. But that's basically... Was that their storyline, really?
Well,
no, because she then went back on it, didn't she?
She then said that I know what you know about what you did to Max, and if you carry on treating me the way you treat me, then I'm going to tell Max that you have lost the money. And so then Ian begs her in his little whiny kind of... I didn't mean to do it.
Feels sorry for himself all of a sudden.
The Ian Bill we hate. And started saying, oh, I promise I'll be better to you. I won't make you do these targets anymore, and you can stay in the pub for as long as you like. Ha ha ha. And Sharon was like, that's all I want. A bit of respect and dignity. Because I wasn't the one who was shamelessly falling in love with someone who didn't reciprocate the love back and now feels like... it's just it's like child school, it's playground behaviour by Ian. And, he needs to be called out for it. But I hated that when he said, oh, okay, yeah, I promise everything's okay between us now. And then when Sharon walked away with her cream top, which she got from Littlewoods, Ian did his little smirky kind of like, yeah, well, as soon as I get the money, I'll be throwing you out. It's like, for God's sake, Ian. But... we've said it every week since we've brought back this podcast, and we heard that Adam Widget's having a break, that we are basically lining ourselves up for potentially a Christmas Who Did Something to Ian storyline.
And Max has said 3 times he'll kill him.
And Sharon's getting upset, Linda's getting upset with him.
Kathy.
Dottie.
Possibly.
Bobby.
I haven't seen Dottie in ages.
Well, she's kind of hidden away now.
Yeah. Is that over now, the whole Denise thing? Is that?
I think so, because Ian pretty much admitted that he did and he knew that he was in there, and he did try to help. I mean, I'm surprised Sharon hasn't really thrown that back in Ian's face.
That could be a good ammunition for her.
Yeah, she's like, well, Ian, let's not forget that you kind of did have a hand at killing my son.
Yeah, so let me live it.
So let me look after the Vic, please.
So let me flirt with whoever I want to flirt with.
Yeah, I mean, she shouldn't have to resort to having to use Max as her main... bargaining chip.
Yeah. Oh, Max, he's friends with everyone now, isn't he? It's so weird.
Well, it's
he's
because
like friends with
in the
Linda.
corner. Well, he sits
in
in the
newspaper,
corner, his newspaper, and just drinks whiskey and kind of judges. He kind of watches the world go by. Perhaps he's going to become the new Denise in a short time. He's going to have that table's his little.
His advice table.
His advice table.
So speaking of Denise, should we talk about her and Isaac and Amy?
Definitely talk about Denise.
Yeah, she's been very busy. I love her hair. Her new hair. It's like beach wavy.
I've not noticed it.
Have you not noticed?
No.
For God's sake. Well, go back and watch. You'll notice it now.
I don't notice hair, though. This has been a trait for, not just in watching EastEnders, it's been a trait of mine for years. Like, I remember as a kid, like, I'd come home from school, my mum was like, oh no, is anything different? I'd be like, tea's not ready. And then she'd just walk away disappointed. I just don't notice hair. I know, I'm a bad child, I'm a bad human.
Yeah, didn't even notice Denise's new hair.
Right, well, nor did Isaac. Isaac never mentioned it.
No, he's got troubles though, hasn't he? Because he's been tutoring Amy.
Yeah.
Amy's been doing her makeup and her hair. She changed her hair. Did you notice that? When she put her little top ponytail thing in to impress Isaac. Yeah.
I noticed that Amy's kind of personality has changed a little bit too. Because a year ago, she was getting all shocked and upset when she recorded Max kissing other women on her iPad.
Oh, no, that was Jack and Rainey.
Oh, Jack and Rainey on her iPad. Now, she's doing the kissing herself. She wants to kiss the teacher.
Yeah, she fancies Mr. Baptiste, doesn't she? I mean, we've all been there, fancy your teacher.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty normal.
Who was the teacher you fancied when you were a kid?
My maths teacher.
Oh, really? I fancied my English teacher.
Oh, no.
I was almost going to say his name then, but he might be listening. Although I hope he is listening.
Yeah, give us a call. So yeah, she's going through that, and Denise kind of notices and gets a bit she gets quite worried quite quickly for some reason. Is it that worrying?
Well, it is.
Like, what was she thinking Amy was planning to run away with him?
Well, I think it's more. It's her trust toward Isaac, because I hope that she didn't think that Isaac couldn't be trusted to basically solve the problem himself. I mean, all it needed to take for Isaac was to him to say, Amy, you have to remember this is a teacher-student relationship. Because it's all started because Amy was going, I've got Instagram, I've got Twitter, I'm too young to have any of these. However, my dad doesn't care because he's busy in the police force now. My dad's a bad parent. He lumps me off to a nanny all the time. So
she's also Roxy Mitchell's daughter, so there's that.
Yeah, but she wants Isaac to follow her. Isaac's like, I don't think it's a good idea if we follow each other because I'm an adult. And Amy is a bit like, oh wow, okay. And Denise sees this, so Denise steps in and says, I think you should maybe stop this now, Isaac.
Keep your distance. That was Denise's line this week. She said that about 4 times. Did you notice?
No.
Keep your distance.
Do you think that's for a future storyline?
For COVID?
Yeah. Maybe that's it. It's a subliminal messaging by the government. Now for another Boris message.
Keep your distance. And then Amy obviously didn't take that very well. And for some reason, I don't really understand where this bag of weed came from. But Isaac said it was like on the school gates or something.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's a primary school he works at.
It's a primary school. So what was when they were doing stop and search? Were they doing it to the mums and dads? I don't really understand.
I don't get it either.
Because surely an 8-year-old kid doesn't smoke weed.
Well,
maybe I'm
Walford.
naive. Maybe we're just being idiots. Maybe. They're young. They start
It did make me laugh. Like, what? Where's this happened? And he said, "Oh, I'm going to take it to the police and drop it in," but he didn't because Jack phoned and checked.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Did you not hear that?
No,
yeah,
I didn't.
Jack said to him, "I've already phoned and checked, and you didn't hand it in."
Oh. Dum, dum, dum.
Maybe Callum was on the phone at the time and just forgot to write it down.
Just dreaming about going home. I don't want to do this job anymore.
So because Amy's now saying that he's a pothead, and apparently the girls are gossiping because Lexi's also heard that he's a pothead from Amy and someone else.
From the sound of things, I think Amy's kind of like the popular girl at school, isn't she? She's like the one you despise and just kind of. She's like the mean girls. She's like the
She's like the Roxy Mitchell of EastEnders.
Yeah, basically, she is her mother.
Yeah, I quite liked Lola this week. Shock horror. Didn't think I'd ever say that, but she was quite grown up when she said to Lexi, "Don't." What did she say? She said, "Don't believe everything you hear and question everything you see," or something. It's like that's a good lesson.
Good advice, Lola.
And then Phil walked in.
Yeah, and then
like,
Phil's like, "No, I'm going to grass him." So a couple of things wrong with this. First of all, literally spent the whole week telling people don't grass.
Yeah, Mitchell's definitely don't grass.
Mitchell's do not grass. Next minute, he sat in the headmistress's office, turns around and gives a little raised eyebrow to Isaac. Second of all, how is Lola more adult and sensible than Phil Mitchell? This doesn't...
It was really odd writing. Like, they really hit it home that Phil was going on and on about don't grass. Like, for about a week and a half, that's been happening.
Yeah.
And then literally the next episode, the next scene, Phil Mitchell is the one to grass on Isaac. It's like, what? Like, why not have, if you're using Lola, just have Lola do it or something. Or someone. Why Phil? Because he was the one who said don't grass.
Yeah, but also, I don't want to sound like Phil shouldn't have any responsibility on his grandchild, but is it really his place to say?
Oh, yeah, it's not really. Because
Jack, I know he obviously hasn't spoken to Jack, but really, if it was anyone's place to say, it's Jack's place to say. And I don't know, for me, the headmistress has just basically fired Isaac on a hearsay between two students who are, 11 years old?
Yeah.
Would that really happen? Surely it'd be more...
Did he get fired, did he?
Yeah, because he phones Denise and says, "Thanks, Denise. Thanks to you. I've no longer got a job anymore." Well, she was busy doing other things, quite rightly so. But it was, I mean, surely he would have been... Maybe he was suspended, actually. Perhaps he was suspended from his job for a short time. But don't you investigate things? Surely, especially if it's from a Mitchell, who's got this reputation in Walford for basically being hard men. Like, surely the headmistress is like, I don't want to sound mean, Mr. Mitchell, but you've got this reputation that you bargain and work for.
You traffic humans, don't you?
Yeah, this human trafficking, tell me more.
But no weed.
No, yeah, but drugs, no, that's bad.
Yeah, it was all a bit...
But Isaac wasn't even doing it. It wasn't from Amy's perspective either. It was from...
Lexi.
It's from Lexi's perspective, and Lexi had just said that Isaac smokes weed. Wasn't that Isaac smokes weed around the children whilst doing a class, shaking a tambourine. So maybe if Isaac does it privately, does it matter?
I think so, yeah. If you're a teacher,
really?
yes.
Yeah, but they're not. He's not.
But they could have drug tested him and then suspended him.
Also true.
Something like
they could have done a drug test.
So it's very silly.
But it's just, for me, it's just like they basically fired a man from his occupation, from his job.
I'm surprised Cherie didn't have a little scene having a go at the school or something. Cherie just appeared for one scene last week and disappeared again, didn't she? So yeah, it's all very strange. But obviously Denise was busy.
Well, Denise had bigger fish to fry.
She did, because she overheard, because Callum's fatal car accident was involving a woman, a mum and dad, and 2 kids. The mum died instantly and one of the other kids did.
I thought it was one kid.
Was it one kid?
Mum and dad, and the mum died instantly. The dad was intensive care,
yeah,
as
so
was
the
kid.
child, yes.
And
touch and go.
And there was a lot of information from the crash site that they were able to fathom. Like the husband was an ex-minister.
Vicar,
an ex-vicar. And there was
the son was adopted by someone called Denise Fox.
yeah.
The dad is known as Phil Mitchell.
Yeah, John Canine, not quite sure. Again, irked me something mad that yet again Phil Mitchell was getting involved in a third storyline this week. Not directly, but how did...
how long will it be until he takes over and Denise isn't seen?
Yeah, and it'll become the Phil Mitchell show yet again. And so Denise works it out and goes to the hospital to visit, which she discovers is her son, Raymond.
Yeah, because she goes home, looks in that box where there's like a letter from the dad, like keeping her informed on what Raymond's up to, I guess. And there's a picture and stuff. And then she she Searchwises it.
Searchwise.
And finds it all out. And when she's there, she meets a new woman who is the mum of the dad, isn't it?
Yes, it's...
So she's Raymond's grandma,
Ellie
of.
Nixon.
Yes.
She's
very mysterious woman.
Adoptive. Yeah, because she kept going on about religion, and she asked Denise if she was religious, and then she kind of blamed the fact that her son... So I'm presuming that her relationship with her son was quite strained, wasn't particularly and that his religion irked her a little bit, made her a little bit kind of distant from him, because she made a few hints that his religion hasn't really helped him, that he prayed and did everything good.
What happened is kind of punishment, wasn't it?
Yeah, now he's just died in a car. Well, he had died if she finds out later, he had died in a car accident, and now has left a child parentless.
And when she was told like her son had died, she was like, okay, let me see him.
Well, she wasn't told. She said, we have some news we need to tell you, some sad
she
news.
worked it out.
You can work it out. And she was very calm.
A bit cold, wasn't she? So,
and you could hear her heels walking away. And don't you think that was kind of like a reflective of her personality, a very empty, hollow personality for her?
So it's very interesting. I mean, obviously, I would have preferred when this happened ages ago when Denise gave Raymond up. I think we did say, because we have talked about it, I think we said like, we wanted this to like not come back until he was like 14, 15 or something, and just not be mentioned and him come back to try and find his mum. But obviously 3 years, that's all they can manage. So he's 3 and now they've brought this thing, this storyline back in. But it gives Denise something, and it seems like it's quite layered with this grandma sort of figure.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't know what's happening or where it's going.
I think it would have been too obvious if the story had been that the parents who adopted Raymond had died, and so now Denise had to make the choice of whether she wanted Raymond with her or for him to be adopted off. That's a horrible term to use, but to be adopted again.
But I mean, this happens all the time, doesn't it? I think this is the second set of adopted parents that have died in a car crash.
Well, it happened
on EastEnders,
with Bex with Martin and Sonia, her adopted parents.
It happened to someone else as well, but I can't remember who. Adoptive parents don't have a very long lasting life.
No, they really don't. I mean, we were right when we said that it would be nice to have Raymond come back a little bit later on, because we had these kind of stories where perhaps he's a bit Mitchell, and that he would be a bit of a wrong un, perhaps what we first thought Isaac was going to be when he first came in. We're not so sure anymore. I don't mind, actually, to be honest with you.
No, it's all right.
I like that Denise is kind of like a choice that she has to make again.
I mean, she might not even choose to have him back. Maybe that's because Kim's coming back for a storyline.
But that's what makes it more interesting, because Kim was really hurt by her adopting out Raymond, because Kim wanted to adopt her.
Yeah, with Vincent.
With Vincent, and he and Denise was like, no, I don't want him to be in the family. So what if Denise then does take him back? Kim's probably going to be quite hurt by it too. I mean, there's obviously...
Or is Phil gonna...
I mean, I'm not putting Phil in the equation because I don't want Phil's involvement. I would happily... I'm sorry, but I would happily, if the story is that Denise decides to bring Raymond back, I would happily just have one scene where Phil's like, a bit like what he did with Albie, when he kind of said, well, he's not my son, so I don't care. And although it is his son, I'd be more than happy for Phil just to be like, you know what, I don't really care. I've missed 3 years of his life. To miss more won't really affect me. And then just let him move on.
This is a chance for the writers to get Ben and Callum another storyline, and they adopt Ray.
Oh my goodness.
Just because Ben and Callum need to be in every storyline, basically.
That's true. But all by
let's not have that happen.
And by association, Phil Mitchell.
Yeah, but, let's not have that happen. It needs to be Denise central.
Yeah, and I think there's more stories with Denise as well. Like I say, there's the Kim story where Kim might feel a bit angry and upset and betrayed because then Denise is taken, even though the circumstances are much more heightened, that's why Denise had taken back. But I'm really interested to know more about Ellie Nixon, and her feelings toward Denise. Did she know that Denise was the mother?
Yeah, because someone, I think both Ritchie on Twitter said she gave a different name to Denise than what the nurse gave her. Right. So she lied about her name already to Denise, which is all a bit...
And Denise wouldn't have caught that, I don't think, because she was so enwrapped with seeing Raymond. Such a beautiful duff and end scene on Friday when the nurse said, because obviously Denise had said she wasn't related, she was just a friend. And then the nurse said, "Are you family?" And Denise said, "Yes." And I thought, honestly, it's a beautiful scene. And it just shows Diane Parrish has it inside of her that she can do some wonderful scenes. I don't think we can predict what's going to happen with this because it could go one way or another.
No, I mean, there's like that religious aspect to it. There's loads of things that could be done. And they've said that she's one of the most evil characters on the square ever. So I don't know, is there going to be some weird religious thing going on? Or is she not religious?
I don't think she is religious, but I think she's going to...
Why, they must have mentioned it for a reason, because both the mum and dad are dead now, so the only other connection is Denise.
But don't forget, there's also a kind of almost a atheist cult as well out there, where there's people who are so against religion, so against the Bible and Christianity that it's almost a religion of their own. They've created this kind of anti-religion. Do you see what I mean? And so perhaps that was a test to Denise when she asked Denise whether she's religious or not. Didn't Denise reply?
No.
Did she say no?
Not. Yeah, I'm sure she did.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing more of her.
I'm very excited by the
nice little surprise that was at the end of the week.
It really was, and it was almost a palate cleanser ready for next week. And I mean,
get ready for it not to appear for like 4 weeks.
I was thinking that, but I would love to see more Denise and more follow up with the Chantel story next week. My fingers are heavily crossed that should happen.
It will. Right, there you go. So that was the week rounded up. So we're going to go on to everyone's comments now to see what everyone else thought of the week and if they match up to what we feel.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So, as always, it's the part of the show where you've got in touch with us on our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook group. You can find all three of those by just searching Walford Weekly Podcast or just simply Walford Weekly and click to follow and join us. But before we get into the general comments, we're going to first of all talk about our question of the week. And guess what it's about? It's about Callum.
Of course.
The question...
Oh, blue eyes.
Blue eye. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So we asked, who should Callum trust for the opportunity to give Ballum the best future? Who should he trust?
Himself.
And
no, not himself, actually.
The two options, as there's always two options, were keep it in the family and help fill out, or cooperate with the coppers and work with the DI. Now, before I give the results, as always, I go through the comments and see if you can gauge where people led toward. Dave, who replied to our Google poll, said Callum's caught between two morally dubious men. DI Thompson may be the real villain, though.
Yeah, it's looking that way, isn't it? With his gruff voice.
Yeah, Dean Gaffney voice.
Maybe he works for Danny.
Points from now on, everyone. Points will be given for people who use the term DI Gaffney. I just want people to know that. Stefan on the Google poll said, in my opinion, it would be a great storyline if Callum did choose the Mitchells over the police.
It's a bit obvious, though, isn't it?
It's a bit obvious. At Noir Full Moon on our Twitter said, I hate the idea of him giving up his job just to appease Ben. That's one sacrifice too many.
Yeah, all he does is sacrifice all the time.
It's always Ben. It's always Callum who has to sacrifice something.
Did you know, just speaking about all the policemen this week, the one investigating Chantel's death is the same policeman who investigated Stuart's shooting? Oh,
How odd. I was trying to work out who he was. I half expected D.I. Gaffney to come in and they'd be like, oh, for goodness sake, this is lazy. But what happened to our favourite female?
I know, there's two of them. And there's three, actually. There's that one with the half a head shaved as well. Where are they? I love them all. They could all be friends of Callum.
Why are all the police... Again, I feel it's a little bit sexist. I'm saying it. I've gone out there. Yeah. Why are all the high-up police officers male?
All the crooked ones.
And they're all... That's true. I don't mind them being crooked and male, but like, why can't they be a non-crooked female high-up police officer?
I know.
Baby...
You can befriend Callum.
Well, we know Mary...
No, baby Annie.
Baby Annie.
She's a detective.
Had so much hope for her. Belle on our Google poll said, I'm hoping Callum has some sort of breakdown, and the story focuses on him getting away from both of them.
But that would involve character, not plot, so that's not going to happen.
Snap. Jess D says, I swear the Walford police are so stupid. They let Phil go when Sharon changed her statement after Boat Week, but surely he would be in trouble anyway because he ran away from the police with Louise and Lisa. So,
yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I know, they seem to
They make you
forget.
Want to take some things really seriously and then other things they just forget it.
Yeah, it never happened. Just I hate that they are slowly kind of deleting Boat Week. Bit by bit. It's almost like this huge celebration that they did. And it was very well done. And now they're just kind of like... Yeah,
and like the big investigation that Stacey had to run away for hitting Phil in the back of the head, but Vinny hit Martin on the back of the head, and it's just, that's it.
Yeah, the end.
It's like, what?
But
they're both the exact same thing.
But they knew Stacey did it, but they don't know if Vinny did it.
I know.
You never know, it might come out of the wash in a few months' time.
Maybe.
Hey, you never guess who got back in touch? Della from Call for Cuts. And they said, I couldn't care less about Callum. I'd say lock up Ben and throw away the key.
Oh, Della. She's got a new assistant in the salon this week.
She's a bit chatty, isn't she? A bit annoying.
Just like Della.
So, who do you think won the poll? Do you think Callum should keep it in the family and help Phil, or cooperate the coppers and help
Probably
the detective?
the family, because everyone hates the detective.
Well, you're quite right. 91.5% of people said to keep it in the family. And so the 8.5 sided with the coppers.
I'd keep it with Kathy.
Keep it with Kathy.
Keeping up with Kathy.
Keeping up with the Cathys. Some other comments, a lot of them this week was about the Chantel aftermath, or lack thereof.
Oh, good.
Feed
it to me.
I will. Bit by bit, I'm going to force it in your mouth. At Little Miss Lost One said, lack of aftermath is the show's greatest consistency in this era.
That's true.
I thought that was a really good quote, actually. That's one of my favourite things. I might put
true
that
to life.
I might put that on our banner on all our social media.
I'm going to get it tattooed onto me.
Yeah, lack of aftermath is the show's greatest consistency. At Dogtanian8 on Twitter said, they've done a lot worse, but it's just a shame that Bernie's been relegated to a named extra.
Especially when that policeman keeps having millions of scenes.
Yeah.
Give Bernie and Sonia something.
Ashley on Facebook says, I want Gray, Karen, Mac and Mia. I want aftermath. A mother, daughter and a sister has just died.
Like when Whitney was like looking after the daughter, like she was just colouring in. It was like, what? When did all this happen? It's
Oh, well, it was in the cafe when
they
were, hanging around.
See Gray's future wife, Whitney.
Do you think
that's what they're doing? Yeah, I can tell.
And just a few more extra general comments that we've had on our social media. Don't forget you can get in touch with us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook group. Just search Walford Weekly Podcast. At Spearpoint3Hot1 said Sonia and Martin got Bex back because of her adopted parents were killed in a car crash. Please come up with something new.
I agree. It's like how Kathy died in a car crash. How did Pete die? Car crash.
Emma Summerhays?
Car crash. Car hitter.
At least Nick's son did something a bit different. It was a bike crash.
That's true.
Emma on Facebook, I always said giving up a child for a GCSE would come back to haunt Denise. I love
That's
that
true,
one.
it has.
By the way, there's been some great comments this week, so please keep them coming. They've been fantastic. At Claudia Stargirl said, really getting tired of the Ballum gangster movie and the sudden Queen Stacey show.
Ooh.
It did overshadow the...
It did. It took everything away from Friday's special episode.
Hannah on Facebook said, poor little Raymond, he's just escaped Phil's parenting once and now he has to come back.
God, yeah. Going to Walford.
No.
How long will he last?
But Phil really has a bad track record of having children. Louise, Ben... Not looking good for Raymond, is it?
No.
At Yasmin_Ali10 says, way too early for this Denise storyline. I was hoping for it years later and it would have been much better. Nevertheless, Diane Parrish will do a grand job.
Yeah, we've already got that to rely on.
Yeah, exactly. We know Diane can do a very, very good job. And finally, we're going to end this week with A through 43, who said, a good week with lots of strands. Denise back at the front. And yes, the aftermath had been muted, but at least it had been mentioned. 7.5 for the week.
Ooh.
Marked there.
7.5.
I like a
I'd
mark.
give it about a 7. 6.8.
I'd give an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
8 out of 10? Or 8
Yeah.
out of 12?
Why 12?
Because that would make more sense. For your 8.
Give it 12.
I'd give it a 6.8.
A 6. You keep going lower. A 6.8.
Yeah, 6.8.
We're doing a decimalisation system.
Yeah,
like that.
why
We're not
not?
doing half increments. We're doing 0.1 increments.
No.
Okay, if we're doing that, then I'm going to say a 7.7.
Good. There you go.
I like the number 7. Thank you as always for getting in touch with us. Don't forget you can catch us on your favourite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Podbean. Don't forget to rate us and be kind with your comments if you enjoy the show. And we look forward to you listening to us again next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.